Before we start to code, we're going to look at something we briefly touched upon in the last video, which was markdown cells. So as you can see right now, I highlighted the first cell and it's a code cell. If I change this to a markdown cell, now we don't see, those square brackets, and the cell here is marked down. If I were to highlight this, this is a code cell, and this is a markdown cell. So markdown is really a way for us to write in English language details about our code. So we're going to, uh, you know, uh, use Markdown as a way for non-technical users to understand the code. And this is very important because you might be writing code which you think makes sense, but then when another pair of eyes looks at it, they don't understand what's going on, and there's no documentation to how you approached a certain problem and uh, why you chose this solution over some other solution. So Markdown is really a way for commenting, writing comments for code. And we're going to look at a few ways that we can, structure Markdown. The first really is using something called, this hashtag thing. If we use one, you see how it automatically turned blue. So if I write something, uh, practicing with Python, and then if I play it, you see there's a title now, and it says practicing with Python. I can, subsequently write code here in these code cells, which correspond to this topic. If I create a new cell, by default, it's a code cell, but I'm going to change it to Markdown. And now here I can, use some other headings. So we saw one with one hashtag. If we use two, it's it basically translates to heading 2. So if I write strings and variables, you see how it's smaller than the other one. And I'll add more cells here. Similarly, if we use 3, subtopic 1, right? It's even smaller than heading 2. So this is a great way to structure or categorize what your code is doing. Something else that we can look at is lists. So sometimes you want to list out, what exactly your code is doing, and without actually describing the code, you want to sort of explain it intuitively using sentences. So you can sort of just, we know that this is a markdown cell. So now I can just write, these are the steps I followed. I pressed enter, and if I put a dash, I can write the steps, step 2, step 3. Now, if I run this, the way it shows is through an unordered list. So it's just bullet points. I can also change this. Instead of using dashes, I can, number them. And you see how the coloring is changing for some of these, but then for the actual text, it stays black. That means that, there's something special about this that Markdown recognizes, which once you press play, it does something. In this case, it created a list, an ordered list. Some other things we can do to make things, make more sense is bold text. So bold text is uh, you wrap whatever you want bolded into two asterisks, right? Now you see that this is bold. If I press play, the asterisk doesn't show. Only the bold text shows. If you want to italicize something, you know, you only put one asterisk before and after the text you want to italicize. There's this other cool thing, which if you want to sort of describe code, we used dot tail, right? Which is some code which I will explain later. So this is actually some Python code. And to distinguish it from the English language, we can wrap it around these special quotes. And if I press play, it renders or it shows differently. So this one was bolded, this one was italicized, and this one is code. So these are really the key, um, you know, syntaxes that you should understand to make your notebook uh, seem more clear, right? You don't just want to have code cells everywhere. You want to balance them off with markdown cells so even non-technical audiences can understand what your thought process is behind this whole flow of code.